Hello, I'm Bob Schieffer, and welcome to the CBS Evening News Online edition. Just ahead, Vice President Cheney's hunting accident. The saga continues with news that the man he shot has had a mild heart attack. Lee Cowan has details. Also, American internet companies accept censorship from the Chinese government. We'll look at why. And the power of love. Even war cannot dampen it for Iraqi couples on Valentine's Day. It's all starting now on the CBS Evening News Online edition. You just couldn't make it up. The Vice President of the United States accidentally shoots a companion on a hunting trip. The White House keeps it a secret for a day. And then when it appears the wounded man is okay, it sets off laughter and jokes from every corner of America. But tonight the jokes have stopped and the whole thing has turned serious. We're going first to Lee Cowan in Corpus Christi.
In a story that was shocking from the beginning, today's announcement by doctors for the vice president's hunting partner put everything in a whole new light.
Some of the bird shot appears to have moved and lodged into a part of his heart, causing the atrial fib and what we would say is a minor heart attack.
The news couldn't have been more different than yesterday.
If the BB went that far in, it seems like this is a bit more of a serious type wound than what we originally thought.
We're dealing with an individual that has good coronary arteries. The chest cage is a very shallow cavity. It doesn't take much depth to go into a vital area.
Doctors say 78-year-old Harold Whittington, a well-known attorney from Austin and a longtime Republican activist, didn't suffer any chest pains but was immediately moved back into the intensive care unit. After conferring with the White House doctors this morning, Whittington's physicians conducted a cardiac catheterization, a procedure that shot dye into his arteries to make sure the birdshot wasn't causing a blockage. It wasn't.
Bear in mind, the heart is as big as a fist. The BB is in that area of this area that's really small. We know the general area that it's in. We know what it's doing.
The shot is small balls of lead, as many as 200 to a shell. The single BB that's lodged in Mr. Whittington's heart muscle is minuscule compared even to a penny. But judging from the accident report from Texas Parks and Wildlife officials, the greatest concentration of the blast was right over Mr. Whittington's chest.
I talked to a cardiologist just a short time ago, and he insists that this is probably not life-threatening. In fact, people have these so-called silent heart attacks all the time, and in most cases, they don't even know they've had it. As for that BB, it will probably stay right where it is, lodged in the heart muscle. Doctors say, given Mr. Whittington's age and the fact that it's not moving around anywhere, that doing surgery on it is just not worth the risk. Bob.
Well, it's a lot different than it sounded yesterday, Lee, that's for sure. The government said today it will tighten enforcement of U.S. trade laws regarding China following a 6-month review of the two countries' trading relationship. Last year, the U.S. trade deficit with China topped $201 billion, a record that critics blame in part on cheating and unfair practices by the Chinese. Members of Congress will consider another aspect of America's relationship with China tomorrow at a hearing on Chinese censorship of the Internet. It will focus on allegations that U.S. companies have knuckled under to the Chinese government, including Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft. Barry Peterson now with more on it from Beijing.
Michael Ante is one of millions of young Chinese who love the Internet. He even had his own blog on Microsoft's MSN network until he angered government censors by criticizing a local newspaper, and one day his blog disappeared.
What did you think? How did you feel?
I think it's a disaster because Microsoft shut down my blog. I think the world changed.
The world changed?
Yeah.
So you don't think that Microsoft represents
the freedom and the open society?
Mm-hmm. Doing business in China means doing it China's way. Google has a new site for Chinese users, and what a difference a country can make.
Here's how it should work. Here in our office in Tokyo, where the Internet is not censored, you go to Google, you type in something like Tiananmen Square. When the results come up, you can click on what Google has found and get the story of what happened that June day in 1989. But now, here in our office in China, we're trying the same search on Google, and here's what comes up. It says the page is not available.
This little cartoon figure reminds users that China has 30,000 Internet police monitoring the web, sometimes with help from U.S. companies. Yahoo is accused of giving authorities files and emails that resulted in prosecutions. This journalist got a 10-year prison sentence for passing along information using Yahoo email. And the word has spread among Internet users here.
If I use the Yahoo, it's very dangerous for me.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
David Wolf, a media specialist in China, has dealt for years with the Chinese government.
You come to do business in China, you're implicitly saying, yes, we will do business by your laws and your rules.
What would happen if these American companies stood up to the Chinese and said, no, we're not going to do it your way? Would they be tossed out?
Essentially, these companies at this point need China more than China needs them.
Many Chinese expected these companies to represent not just American technology, but American values.
Because they're American companies.
Yeah.
They represent freedom.
Yeah, I thought it was.
Now you don't think so.
I think it's business.
Now it's just business.
Business the Americans want enough to play by China's authoritarian rules. Barry Peterson, CBS News, Beijing.
It is not the first place you think of when you think of Valentine's Day, but it turns out the holiday is celebrated in, of all places, Iraq. The Iraqis have given it another name, but even in wartime, there's no mistaking what's going on. Here's Kimberly Dozier in Baghdad.
In between the bombs, the shootings, the checkpoints, and the power outages, there are some things war simply can't stop. Here in Iraq, Valentine's Day is known as the Day of Love. Baghdad's florists are working overtime. It seems the one thing Sunnis, Shiites, and Kurds can all agree on is romance.
It is a present, most a present. You cannot live without it.
Iraqi couples are giving new meaning to the phrase, love will find a way. Asam and Rasha met just after Baghdad fell.
I saw something in her eyes.
They're finally engaged after an almost 3-year courtship, held up by curfews and security crackdowns that often kept them apart.
I'm thinking about her day by day.
But the chaos is wearing them down. Like many young couples here, they dream of escaping to start a family far away from Iraq. For others, though, the conflict has already caught up. Sufyan lost her husband 2 years ago, killed on his roof by a stray bullet. That left her to raise 2 young children alone, including their severely disabled son. I have to go on for them, she says. Like most widows here, she refuses to remarry. She says when she looks at her children, she sees her husband's eyes, probably a bit more clearly on a day like today. Kimberly Dozier, CBS News, Baghdad.
More stories are just a click away, but don't forget to join me on television for the on-air edition of the CBS Evening News. For CBSNews.com, I'm Bob Schieffer.